Sit back, relax. Try to maintain your composure. You are about to become connected.
Welcome everybody to Carols by Candlelight. No, that's a joke. This is the Connect podcast, episode 22, and Shaun and I are sitting in our lounge room by candlelight. This
Candles everywhere.
Podcast by candlelight, and the reason is because today, at this very moment, is Earth Hour 2013, and we decided we'd do a podcast and talk about all earthly things and the state of the earth and what we've done to it and how we can fix it.
There may be candles everywhere, but I've still got a cold beer.
Well done, Shaun.
I've got a cold beer, and that's all that matters.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Well, who kept that beer cold for you?
The beer being cold is a luxury. At the end of the day, if it was warm, I'd still be drinking it, and it would be delicious. But the cold is maybe that's how we got to this state.
Because everyone needs really cold beer.
Yeah, because
too much power being used to keep things cold.
I know, yeah, too much power.
I think that's a good point.
It is. But beer is delicious when it's cold.
Anyway, that's good, Shaun. So yeah, we're going to be talking today. We're going to go over 5 problems, environmental issues in the world today. Obviously, we don't have time to go through every issue because that would be ridiculous because there are so many, in case you didn't know. But we're going to go over 5 main ones, and those are going to be overfishing, climate change, deforestation, pollution in general, and species extinction and biodiversity loss. And then we're going to just talk about how that links in with the greater problems of today and the big story, the big picture. Certainly. Of what we're actually doing here and why these things have come about. And then we're going to talk about hopefully how we all can work together to do something about it, what you can do to fix this, how we're going to get ourselves out of this mess.
Firstly, Earth Hour. What is it and why should people be doing it? And it's going to be interesting to see because we live in a lovely unit in Prahran, Melbourne, and we've got a second-story balcony view of the whole of Melbourne City. So we've started this a little bit early, so soon we'll give you an up-to-date on how much of Melbourne City has actually blacked out for Earth Hour, which I think is very important,
yeah.
And I'm really hoping that my fellow citizens go to the extra effort of being able to turn off their lights for an hour and really, get back to the old-fashioned communication rather than sitting in front of a TV and fucking, speaking to people who they don't necessarily know and who are getting paid to be their friends.
Okay. But I'm surprised I haven't seen that many advertisements for Earth Hour this year.
Well, look, it all costs money, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
True.
And there's no money in turning your lights off, is there? Okay?
That's a good point.
It's a very good point. I'm chock full of them. So Earth Hour, Tessa, what does Earth Hour mean to you? Before we get into actually what it is.
Earth Hour means to me, it's a moment in time where we can pay our respect and show our love for the planet that we're living on and that we actually care. A time to come together, almost like, 11 o'clock a.m. on the 11th of the 11th, how we pay homage to the soldiers that have fallen.
Let's
pay homage to the earth that has almost fallen.
11th of 11th,
and that we're going to try not to let it fall. That's what it means to me. What does it mean to you, Shaun?
That's great. Well, I mean, what it means to me is, I didn't know it was sponsored by the wildlife.
WWF,
the pandas. What it means to me is that, look, it's a really important thing if people actually do it and do it properly, I think, because getting back in touch with, the good old-fashioned, like I said before, sit around, and I don't even know if people actually do that. Do they?
I don't know anymore.
Do people watch TV all the time? I don't know. I think this is a bit of a stereotype or a generalisation I got, but I think a lot of people do just sit around and watch TV when they get home and that sort of thing. But, you know, I think it's a good old-fashioned thing to sit around and, holy shit, like, hey, for the first 15 minutes of Earth Hour, if you're doing it properly, sitting with friends, family, whatever, got some candles lit. You know, at what point, how many times a year, some people enjoy candles all the time, but how many times a year do you sit around with no lights on and you just have to look at each other in the face and going, do I actually even like you? You know, do we even have anything to talk about? Why do we live together? You know,
right, yeah.
You know, no, get down to the basics of essentially what makes humanity tick along in a positive or negative fashion. The fact of communication, good old-fashioned communication, and being interested enough in what other people have to say. And, you know, actually, now that I say that, from where I come from, that's pretty tough this day and age.
So what you mean is, like, what it means to you is switching off the clutter, switching off the static that surrounds our life and prevents us from being able to make real, authentic connections with those around us.
That's right, and I know that's not what it's actually about, but that's what it means to me, just as much as, sure, okay, it's there to save energy and for us to understand that, you know, even I think you can find out the stats that even after Earth Hour, how much money, how much power is actually saved per city or something like that. But, you know, we're talking about, I'm going to keep this website open actually while we do this.
We're using a computer, don't judge.
It's got a countdown. Well, we charged it before Earth Hour, so shut up. and the recording device uses AA battery, so you can use my ass. Alright. Motherfucker. Alright, but, you know, I think it means more than just, like, you know, turning power off and saving energy. It means actually, you know, doing it and then trying to understand why you're doing it and why it's important, and then hopefully getting to a bit of a deep conversation. Because what do? You don't go and read a book. It's dark. You don't go and, you know, what do you do when it's dark? And,
you're right. You know, it might spark some real conversation about real issues that are going on and real ways that we can fix things. For an hour. You might be talking to your family for an hour. Oh my God.
We're going to actually advocate. We're going to advocate doing Earth Hour weekly. Okay? During business hours.
Hourly.
During business hours. During peak business hours. You know, and making it business orientated. All right. So everyone in the business has to do Earth Hour at 2 p.m. every Wednesday. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, bankers. All right, and that's when we can hold the executions. All right. Sorry. Okay. So
let's go over these topics.
I digress. Right. Let's just go over these topics quick. Let's get them out of the way. No. We've done. We're really excited about this particular podcast because, you know, me and Tess have come to a few. Well, Tess brought it up with me actually, so I'm not going to steal your thunder. But we've had a few realizations, and as you do learn more about the world that you live in on a global scale, just like I was talking about with Tess before, in our, you know, dinner conversation. This is how much fun we have when we spend time alone. But you know, we were having dinner and watching a documentary, and when you do speak to people of an older age group and you try and discuss the world in general, and then you get the old rants of like, you know, these problems, you know, such as all the social problems we see around the world today, globalised problems, these problems have been around for so long, you know, why do, you know, the age-old questions, you know, no one's going to figure them out, like, should equality be, you know, in an economic system, and all this sort of stuff. You know, this revolution of consciousness, you know, all these movements coming up from the grassroots youth perspectives, we are born in the internet revolution, in the age of information, and we have almost developing a emotional and empathetic connection with a globalized world, with information technology. I see status updates from wars all around the world on a minute-to-minute basis. I see updates of status of, you know, animal cruelty or this or that, you know, through Facebook and Twitter and fucking, you know, whatever, or you know, our homepages, anything that we load up if you're that way inclined. The activists of the socially conscious individual human today especially the younger person, because they've got time and energy and heart to be able to feel empathy for people starving and dying and their planet getting fucked up by, people raping it for resources. We have this new evolved connection of there are problems, and getting back to what I was originally saying, when Tess was saying, look, it's perfect that Earth Hour's come up at this point, because we need to really start relating the podcast in some way, in particular podcasts, to the fact that the Earth needs specific help, and we try and be quite general on the podcast. I mean, we have aliens on, we do talk about economics, we talk about everything, but we do definitely, this is a perfect time and a perfect podcast to really get to the nuts and bolts of the environmental, environmental dead ends or the environmental destruction that we're facing and we will be facing in our lifetime.
Yeah, and let's face it, there are heaps of issues, and there always has been. There's so many things to solve, problems to solve, but if we're going to solve one first, it has to be the environment, because without it, obviously, we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
So that's why it's at the absolute forefront, and I mean, there are theories about things around the world that are going on, why things are happening, and conspiracy theories left, right and centre about things, but it is undeniable the situation that we are in is really, really serious, and if we don't start to act on it, we're going to see catastrophe and a lot of life dying off on the earth, and not just us,
but like I said,
just other species.
This is not just some conspiracy, some convoluted, we need scientific evidence. Well, we do need scientific evidence, but it's not some hypothetical, some people are right, some people are wrong, the fucking brass motherfucking tacks of the situation are, if we continue the way we're going, population keeps growing the way it's going, which I don't believe is a variable. So if we continue the way we're going without changing something to do with the structure of the way that we live our life, within a lifetime, within a 50-year span... this century, definitely. We are going to be running out of resources, sea levels rising, and sure, the rich countries might be a reasonably mild, if not fairly drastic, change we have to might make.
Only because we have money and we'll be using that to get it from...
Because we could probably relocate to something like that. But for the poorer countries, like I said, this empathetic connection that we feel with people, we're trying to start to feel with people around the world, because the rich countries have completely and utterly consumed resources, burnt fossil fuel, done everything they possibly can to grow and expand and get their luxuries and material goods, and the poorer people, the 2 billion poorer people in the world who live on shorelines, who live all around the world, are not going to have food. We're just massive amounts of death and destruction from the choice of the Western world's lifestyle, or from the population density also of those third world countries, which I can't really blame them for, because that's just the way the cookie's been crumbling for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it seems to be a battle of whether or not we're going to face up to what's going on. And over the last 50 years, it's been that, it's like, and given that, every single graph we see about anything with our environmental issues, and it's an exponential graph. It's always exponentially growing. And of course, over the last 50 years or so, there've been constant environmental problems, getting worse and worse, but not so bad that we have to do something about it. So it's just like, but now it's really bad, and it's rapidly getting worse, and it's no longer something that we can just hide. And if you're sitting there thinking that we'll be fine, you really need to start looking into things a little bit further, because we may not be. This is not something that you can just sit back and go, we'll be fine, technology will save us, someone's looking after it. They're not looking after it. The
politicians and the government, they're the guys, they'll see the writing on the wall, they won't. Look, the system is a self-generating system which continually just churns out the same businessmen, the same corporations, yet it just completely constricts power to the minute who are more indoctrinated than us down the bottom about making money. Their pledge to the world and to their shareholders, they are going to make profit.
All right, let's stop talking about that.
No, I completely understand that, but it's very relevant. They are going to make profit and they are going to make